Hello, beautiful people. I do not know who is going to join me today, but I hope that if you're joining me, you will post it in the comments below because I love to see who's here and I love to see who's watching so that I can just say hi because that helps me to know that I'm not alone when I'm doing this. So I try to show up on my channel quite frequently in shorts and lives and some videos that are informative and educational because quite frankly, this topic really hits home for me as far as, knowing your glucose levels and helping you to achieve amazing optimal metabolic health for your future. And for those who don't know my story, I'll share a little bit about it while people are hopping on because I think it's really powerful. Let's see, a few years ago now, I think it's been 3 years, I started wearing a continuous glucose monitor and it was so valuable. What I learned through the process was the things that my body was responding to. I had no idea almost all my life, and I'm almost 40, so for about 37 years, I didn't know what I didn't know. And if I would have known, oh man, I could have achieved so many goals with my health and my weight loss and, all those things so much quicker than waiting and struggling and beating my head against a wall for 37 years. I'm just a normal person who's sharing her message because I know there's people out there like me who struggle with weight loss and their metabolic health. And I didn't want to be the person who went to the doctor and they tell me that I have prediabetes. I was like, how do I not have that diagnosis? Because so many Americans and people around the world are highly, predispositioned to prediabetes. And I was like, I don't want to be that person. It's run in my family in the past, and I didn't want that for myself. So when I started to dig into, different supplements and different things, I realized that, oh, so many people don't know their glucose numbers. So that's where I started sharing my information about my continuous glucose journey. And I was like, wow, this is super, super powerful information. The biggest thing for me that I was doing wrong was that I was intermittent fasting, thinking, everything was good, right? Like that's what health gurus tell you is to intermittent fast. And some people love intermittent fasting, and that's great. If your body responds well to intermittent fasting, then do it, right? But what if it doesn't? And so that was me. I didn't know. So I was intermittent fasting thinking, okay, I, can't really lose weight doing this. Thank you so much for commenting. I love to see that there's comments. I love to know that people are with me. So I was intermittent fasting. I wasn't losing a ton of weight, and I was like, what's wrong with me? I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but my body's not responding in the same way it is for somebody else who can lose 7 pounds when I can lose maybe 1 or 2 in trying to go 24 hours. And it's like daunting, to try to get through that 24-hour period without intermittent fast or without any food, right? So that's what intermittent fasting is. You go for a period of time, for those who don't know, and they, and your body does amazing things through that process, apparently, and that's not my jam. So what was happening is I was tanking about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would get brain fog. I would get like, it's almost like an out of body experience where I couldn't think. It was like I was exhausted and the day just started. And so really it wasn't working for me. And it wasn't until 3 years ago when I did my journey, continuous glucose monitor, that I learned why. So I have, pretty much hyperglycemia. And so I have to eat my carbohydrates in the morning. My body is fueled in that way, and I can begin to start releasing the weight when I'm eating in that order. So usually I have a sourdough English muffin in the morning with an egg and some veggies and an avocado, and that sustains my energy. That sustains my body the whole morning, and I get so much energy through the day, and it's amazing. So what I was finding was when I was trying to eliminate that and do what the health gurus said to do, it wasn't working. And so for those like me who have that struggle, you're not the only one, right? And so I'm just gonna share, I haven't taken my numbers today, but I always try to share with you what they are when I'm on, because I haven't taken them this afternoon yet, so I thought I might, and then explain what the numbers are, and then we'll get into how does caffeine affect your blood sugar. So for those who don't know, I created the metabolism reset tracking course so that people like you and I can get their information and not have to pay an arm and a leg. Okay, it's starting here. So we're just gonna take it and see what it is. I had lunch like a couple hours ago, and for those who don't know, you should take your glucose. You should always know your readings. You should know your fasting numbers. You should know your afternoon numbers. Let's see what it is. You should know them for the sake 109, which is really good after eating lunch. And so for those who don't know, if you don't know, you don't know, right? So I didn't know that if your numbers are above 140 about 2 hours after you eat lunch, or after you eat at all, that's getting into that pre-diabetic range where you have to be careful, and always consult a doctor. I'm not a doctor, I'm just somebody who has learned a lot of information through this process, and I can't wait to share it with you because it's been so helpful. So one of the things that I wanted to share is how caffeine affects blood sugar, or affects your blood sugar levels, and does it even matter? Like, does it matter for weight loss? Does it matter for your metabolic health? And the answer is yes, it definitely affects your weight, it affects your hormones, it affects insulin sensitivity. So what happens is it actually reduces the insulin sensitivity in your body. So caffeine increases the levels of stress hormones in your body. And so it can also, and then it also temporarily reduces the ability of cells to produce the sugar and increase insulin resistance. So that's why it's super important that, first of all, that you know your glucose numbers, especially your fasting glucose number. If that was the only one you were taking a day, I would say that's the most important one to know. And then you need to know how your body is responding. Like, do you get exhausted in the afternoons? I was dealing with that. I was so sluggish in the afternoons, and that's not normal. You have to understand that, like, that's not normal. We have to stop saying, oh, caffeine is just part of my day. And yes, I do drink a little bit of coffee in the mornings, but we shouldn't be, consuming the coffee and then taking the energy drinks, or, the coffees in the afternoon, right? It's just not normal. That's not a normal energy. My husband says that the caffeine is fake energy, and he's so right. It is fake energy. So caffeine makes the cells less responsive to insulin, which is the hormone that helps the glucose enter the cells for energy. This can lead to a higher blood sugar level, especially after meals. So it's interesting because here's what we do, right? We go out to dinner, and what do? we have caffeine. We typically, some people, I'm not saying all, I'm just saying probably most of us, me included, we just have a Coke, Diet Coke, whatever, whatever your choice is, Pepsi, I don't know, whatever. And so you're already setting yourself up for failure, because when we're eating out, first of all, you're probably eating way more carbohydrates than normal. We're eating, and then we're drinking caffeine on top of it. So we're like loading our bodies, and it's like, okay, what is our body supposed to do, right? What do we want it to do? I know that I want to be healthy, and I want to be in my most optimal health, especially going into my 40s and 50s. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who want to up their optimal health as well. So with that being said, how do we start understanding this information and making better choices for ourselves? Yes, you're still gonna grab the caffeine. Yes, you're still gonna eat out at restaurants. Like that's normal, right? Like that's what normal is. But how can we help that, right? So like, for instance, I know through my process of walking through this journey that if I can go on a short 5-minute walk after I eat, that you're already decreasing your glucose spike by 50%. It is one of the single most best things you can do in reducing a glucose spike. Now, there are a lot of supplements, there are a lot of things that we can do and take and that like help that, but like that through I had like tested all of these different ways. That's one of the best and most effective ways to combat a glucose spike. So if you're eating a sugar of any kind, if you're eating a carbohydrate, if you're drinking caffeine, you can bet your glucose is going to spike. And that's where, if it spikes over that 140, that's where you start to question, okay, what do I really need to do differently here so that I'm not going to fall into that pre-diabetic and diabetic range, right? So a lot of times, a lot of people go to the doctor, right? First of all, I had never even understood any of this until like you start hearing, oh, pre-diabetic, right? Hey, Vicky, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because actually it's not for diabetics, but that's okay. If you're here and you're learning and you have diabetes, like that's awesome too. But actually people don't understand that like understanding your blood sugar levels for your optimal health is actually one of like the most important things to do so that we don't end up with diabetes or pre-diabetic, right? So there's a lot of information that I'm sharing that is super helpful for somebody who does. But no, that's not what this channel is about. But I'm so glad that you asked, because that is why I share this information, because so many people don't know that they should be understanding their glucose levels. They should be taking, even if you're not diabetic, this is not made for people with just diabetes. You should be tracking, and you should be starting to understand and learn. And if you are already doing that, I'm so proud of you. You understand that, like, okay, my glucose levels are, high, they're high. And so, okay, that means, a lot of things, a lot of insulin sensitivities, right? And so how can we combat that so that we can lose weight, so that we can take some of the pressure off of our bodies, so that our insulin levels will come down, our glucose levels will come down, all of those things. So there's a lot of things that you can do to combat that. And like I explained before, walking after eating is like the single most important thing. Like if you did nothing else, it would be so helpful for you to start implementing that. And so with that being said, back to the caffeine and blood sugar, right? A lot of people are like, oh, okay, even if you fall into that category. So Vicky, you do, and you say that's okay, right? But so whether this information is helpful or not, that's up to you. And I'm just glad you're here, and I'm glad we've connected. caffeine, so a lot of people can say caffeine doesn't affect me, or I'm drinking diet caffeine, right? Or I'm drinking diet soda, so it's not going to affect my blood sugars. Well, in fact, if it is caffeine, which diet soda still is, it is still affecting our insulin resistance, and that is where we have to be careful. I can't stress it enough, because like I've seen it over and over again. I can just do whatever. Well, that caffeine is definitely playing a part in how our cells are releasing that, or dealing with that insulin resistance. And so if we can level down the insulin resistance, that's when our body is like, okay, I can release some of this weight, right? Like that's what we're trying to get our body to have, that more of that optimal health, so that it does that for us, right? Like that's like if you're putting a puzzle together, that's that link, right? Is like, okay, what can we get our body to do in order for this to happen through the process? And so not only does caffeine affect our blood sugars, like I have explained, and if you missed it and if you're joining us, you'll have to go back and watch, because it is super important to understand that it reduces the insulin sensitivity. It also, the stress hormone release, right? I talked about that, like adrenaline, right? Adrenaline is a hormone, and it is that it temporarily reduces the ability for the cells to process the sugar. So it increases that insulin resistance. And then thirdly, it disrupts our sleep. And so one of the most powerful things through my journey of doing the continuous glucose monitor was understanding how I was sleeping, and when I wasn't getting enough sleep, what it was doing to my glucose levels the next morning. And I thought that was super powerful. It definitely interferes in the sleep deprivation. So like if you think about it, like if you're only sleeping 5 hours versus 8 hours, it has been linked scientifically to decreased insulin sensitivity. And so that's where I say, okay, if we can focus on getting back to optimal health, swapping out some of those caffeine things with natural supplements and doing stuff, to increase our energy and our body's optimal health, then it really does help with, down the road, it helps with our bodies to be able to release the weight. I've been able to release almost 50 pounds. I'm so thankful. And that's through this process of understanding, okay, truly it's like a kindergartner versus a high schooler just graduating, right? Like to understand like the intricacies of our body. A lot of times we blame our doctors, or we go to our doctor to try to tell us these things about ourselves, and it's like, wait a minute. Okay, only if we knew some data about what was going on with ourselves that we could make better decisions, so that when we go to the doctor, we're not dumbfounded every time they say, I don't know what's wrong with you. Because that's what happened to me. Like I was having all of these things happening, and I went to the doctor and they're like, your lab tests are fine. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I'm like, I don't feel normal. Like I'm in my, prime. I was in, my mid 30s. Like I shouldn't be tired all the time. I shouldn't be having all these things happen when, I knew better. I knew that this was, this wasn't normal. And and so I can scream it from the rooftops, because it has changed not only my life, it has changed my appearance, it has changed everything, and I'm so grateful for that. But truly, it has helped me to understand this in a way that I can help explain it to others who are like me, so that they can make changes for themselves and see the results to live a longer life. So that's what I'm about. That's why I'm here sharing. And if you're here for the first time, thank you for joining. If you'll, I hope you'll subscribe and you'll come back, and because I do try to share powerful information that I have learned through this process. And that's why I created, I have a short little mini course. It's not very much at all, but it teaches you and it helps to give a tracker. It's actually, my husband is a highly trained and he does amazing. And he created this, spreadsheet that tracks and helps you to understand your glucose spikes, so that when you see the data and you see a spike, then you can start to understand what is helping or what is hurting you, right? And what to do about it. Give solutions. I have so many other tools to use that are, solution based, so that we can find these solutions instead of sitting and doing nothing and wondering what's wrong with me, right? That's how this came about, and that's how really this channel and this, me sharing this information has just been, powerful, just because I walked it. And if I can help one person, then, jumping on a live and not wanting to is totally worth it, because, well, I am here to help. And if I can help you or anyone then feel free to share with them this information and share this video, because I'm just here to share. Once again, for those who don't know me, my name is Alicia Matisse. I was born and raised in Montana, and I moved to Florida. For the longest time, I lived in the coldest state, besides Alaska, I think. And winters are so brutal, so brutal. Everyone who loves Yellowstone, they can move there. They are moving there. But I just couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't worth my, it wasn't worth it, because I love the sunshine. It fuels me, and helping others, it fuels me. And so if I can do this, and if I can share with one person and it changed their life, then this is worth it. So that's who I am. That's what I'm about. And I hope that you guys will join me again when I jump on for something else in the future. Talk to you soon. Bye.